I've heard a lot of bad things about the Ouija board, and honestly, I've also known a lot of people who play it without experiencing anything particularly scary. Today I want to tell you that even if it's the simplest one, even if it's just a toy and you play without bad intentions, the Ouija board leaves a mark on you, and at some point it comes back for you. What I'm going to tell you is the terrible story that we lived through and are still living, with the worst Ouija board we could have ever found. I'm going to tell you how what lives in it ruined our lives. I'm not going to take much time to introduce the next story, everyone. I just want to warn you that this might be one of those stories that causes a lot of discomfort, especially for people who are either sensitive to paranormal topics or tend to get influenced by certain stories. If you decide to continue, go ahead, but you do so at your own risk. If you have friends who also listen to Relatos de la Noche casually, just for entertainment, I recommend you tell them to skip this episode. See you soon in another one. And now that it's just us, only those who are supposed to be here, there's no turning back. You are listening to Tales of the Night. Stay until the end. We are going to give away books and we'll tell you how to participate. I like knowing that this story will be heard by the Relatos de la Noche community. This is the only place I could trust. But I must warn you, when I try to tell it, something stops me. My head hurts, I feel sick, and the people I've managed to share it with, especially those who could somehow help me, have gone through the same thing. This story is about a Ouija board. I learned a lot about them, unfortunately, just to protect myself, to protect what I care about. And I also learned that the damn board I came across held something terrible inside it. He doesn't remember, and it was tough. To help you understand my story, I need to start at the beginning. Back to October 2020 in Valle de Barabo. My grandparents lived there. They had a comfortable life, and when my grandfather retired and left his business in the hands of my dad and my uncle Armando, he sold the house he had in Mexico City, where we all grew up. He sold an apartment he had in Polanco, and with his savings, he bought a house in Valle. It's a beautiful town surrounded by mountains, a little over 2 hours from Mexico City. The house he bought belonged to a friend of his, and they had spent countless weekends and some vacations there. Me too, parties, vacations, me too. My grandparents always dreamed of having a house like that. So when they found out it was for sale, that very one, they decided that would be where they would spend their last years. But they never imagined they would have so little time, that the dream would be so short. They bought it at the beginning of 2019, so by the time the pandemic arrived, it was the perfect place to spend it far from everything and safe, since both of them always had health and blood pressure problems. The rest of us in the family were very afraid that they could get infected, but at the same time, we felt some relief that they were so isolated. The only ones who saw them every 2 weeks were my uncle Armando and Katie, his wife, who brought them groceries, medicine and essentials, so they could stay in. But in October, they called all of us. They were feeling really bad emotionally, since they weren't seeing anyone anymore. They felt weak, they missed us, and even though they knew we didn't want to visit them to avoid exposing them, they suggested we spend a few weeks there. They knew we were being very careful, that all of us, except for my dad, were basically staying inside, sitting at home all the time. It was very unlikely that we were sick, but they would also give us the chance to stay on one side of the house until 2 days had passed and we felt confident enough to go see them and hug them. We would basically go and quarantine ourselves there in a part of the house before spending time with them. And that way, and only that way, we agreed. I guess a lot of us who had grandparents during the pandemic will relate to this. Infecting them was one of the terrible fears we all had to live with. So we got ready, took everything, and went over there. The house was so big that we could live comfortably without running into my grandparents, who would lock themselves in their room for those 2 days, separated from the rest by a long hallway. It would be my grandparents, my mom, my dad, and me, and on the other side of the family, my uncle Armando, his wife Kathy, and my cousin Mariela. Mariela was my age, but she had grown very distant from everyone since the death of her mom, my Aunt Mari. And honestly, we were all a bit upset with my uncle because before it had even been a year since Aunt Mari passed away, he was already getting married again. Also, there was something very strange about his wife, Kathy. In many ways, it seemed like she was pretending to be my Aunt Mari, may she rest in peace, as if she really wanted to take her place. And it wasn't about being nice, about feeling close to us. Once, for example, my mom and I were really uncomfortable because she made an inside joke that we used to have with my Aunt Mari, and I don't know how she found out about it. Living with her would be the least of our worries if we could stay with my grandparents. And I really wanted to spend time with my cousin, see how she was doing, because she had deleted all her social media and I didn't know anything about her anymore. I remember very well, and I don't know if this has anything to do with it, a dream I had the night before we left for my grandparents' house. I was there at my grandparents' house, but it looked different. It was old, neglected. Inside, everything stank. It looked like it had been abandoned for years. Pasillo y mi señala hacia la ventana. I looked for my grandparents everywhere, but they weren't there. And then a very ugly lady appeared in a hallway and pointed me toward. I asked her where my grandparents were, who she was, and what she was doing there. And without saying a word, she would point outside again. I finally looked out, and outside, there were many dead people around the house. You could see their horrible old clothes, as if they had just come out of the graves. In the distance, I saw my grandparents walking away, but I didn't dare go outside because all the dead seemed to be looking at the house, and little by little they started to move forward. I suppose this is where the inexplicable part of my story begins, and I apologize for taking so long, but believe me, everything I've told you was necessary to understand what's coming next. We arrived at Valle de Bravo, and as soon as we got closer, the weather changed. We started to feel the cold of that area. We got to the town to buy everything we needed to spend several days without leaving the house, being very careful, wearing two-face masks, just like my dad always did. Then we left the town and headed to my grandparents' house, in an even more isolated area, far from everything with no neighbors, just like my grandpa always dreamed, especially since he never liked people. I remember there was a little bit of rain as we were getting closer, and I liked it. And at that time of year, we would still get those nighttime rains. It was really beautiful to watch the rain over the landscape from that house, with how well they kept it, so pretty. But when we arrived, I was surprised to see the surroundings a bit neglected, the grass overgrown. My dad told me it was because they had asked the workers to stop coming, so they wouldn't put themselves or the workers at risk, but that he would use those days to do some maintenance wherever it was needed. It seemed strange to me because at that moment it looked kind of neglected. And that gave it more of a haunted house vibe than a vacation house. But well, we would work on that. I saw my uncle's truck parked there. They had already arrived. We got out and saw Uncle Armando and Katie eating. We greeted them. Then we went to greet my grandparents, who were at the door of their room. We were several meters away from them, the entire length of the hallway. And even though I know we all wanted to give each other a hug, we felt it was safer to wait a bit, take a shower, and change our clothes. I don't know. I think a lot of people will understand how paranoid we were in those pandemic days, especially with our elders. Then we went back to join my uncle. He had such a kind laugh that it always made me uncomfortable, as if it wasn't sincere. I asked her about my cousin Mariela, and she told me the girls are out exploring the woods. The girls, I asked them. And my uncle told me that Mayra, Katie's niece, was staying with them. They had also taken her to spend those weeks with her grandparents. That it would suit me. That being with them had given a lot to Mariela. Now they were inseparable. And well, I thought I wanted to see Mariela. But if she was doing better, that would also make me happy. I put on my jacket for the drizzle and went out on the path they told me they had taken. The one Mariela liked since we first went there, when my grandparents still rented the house from time to time. But the drizzle was starting to fall. When I looked into the distance and saw no sign of them, I decided it was best to turn back after walking for a while. And when I turned around, it was very strange, but I saw some flattened grass there, as if someone had just passed through there, leaving the path. I paid attention, and I heard voices not far from where I was. One of them was my cousin's, I was sure. So I walked off the path, following the trail of trampled grass. When I went a little further, I noticed there was some kind of slope. You couldn't see the path anymore, let alone the house. It seemed like they were trying to hide to have made it all the way there. As I got closer, I could hear Mariela's voice more clearly, and another voice, more like playing. Then Mariela said, "No, please." And that made me hurry, call out to her, tell her I'd arrived, greeting her, but at the same time trying to stop whatever was happening. The voices stopped when I heard myself, but I kept moving forward a couple more meters, and when I moved some branches, I could finally see them. Mariela was lying on the floor, and there was a girl our age. She was on top of her, hiding something in her hands behind her back. She smiled at me. She told me they were waiting for me, that my cousin had told her a lot about me. My cousin smiled at me too, and then I understood that they were playing, or at least that's what it seemed like. I hugged her tightly. I wanted to see her, but something was strange. I felt her like before her mom died. Calm, smiling. I told them people were waiting for us to eat, and they should hurry. My plan was to stay with them for a while, but I don't know. There was something I didn't like about Mayra, so I decided to go ahead instead. I really wanted to get out of that forest, to go back to the house. I kept thinking about Mayra. Slim, very pale, with very pronounced dark circles under her eyes, almost like stains. Very beautiful, straight black hair, big nose. She looked almost like a Middle Eastern girl or something like that. She was very pretty, but in a strange way, at least to me. She scared me a little. When they arrived at the house, they greeted my parents very naturally and we started eating. The grandparents ate in a small dining room they had near their bedroom. It was a very strange feeling to be together, but not really be together. But we wanted to take care of them. It was the least we could do. During lunch, they told me where I would sleep. I wasn't going to share a room with Mariela. They would let her sleep with Mayra. So I would have a room just for myself. I liked that, but at the same time it made me sad. But I would have to sleep in the attic, in the place with the best view in the house. You could see the forest and lake in the distance from there. And I did like that. After eating, Mayra came up to me. She looked at me without saying anything. It was a very long pause. Too long. It made me uncomfortable. Until I asked him what was going on. Mayra told me that when everyone fell asleep, when everyone went to their rooms, I should go down to the room where they would be. We have to show you something. The afternoon passed. I showered and went upstairs to sleep. And I started looking out the attic window. I really loved that place. It reminded me of houses in movies. It had never scared me. But that was about to change. I heard someone knock on the door. It was Mayra and Mariela. They asked me if I was ready, and I didn't understand. Mariela asked me if Mayra hadn't told me what we were going to do, and I said no. She only told me that they were going to show me something. No. This will change your life, said Mariela. She grabbed my hand and pulled me from the room before I could respond, but Mayra stopped her. Here. Let's do it here. It's farther from your dad. After saying that, she walked away down the dark stairs. I went back to my room with Mariela, trying to talk to her, but she didn't answer me at all. It was like she shut down, as if her happiness turned off when Mayra wasn't there. She came back with a painting wrapped in black cloth. She came into my room and asked me to lock the door. She told me I couldn't tell anyone what she was about to show me. I said, okay. She made me swear it. And I said yes again. But I think Mayra noticed that I said it too lightly. Swear it. On a life that matters to you. What? I didn't know what to say because I wasn't going to tell anyone. I didn't care what they had. But even though I didn't really believe in those things, I didn't want to swear something like that. I asked him who I had to swear by, and he told me to just say it. I swear it on a life that matters to me. I said yes when I said it. At that moment, he pulled my hand together with his. He found what I had hidden in those old fabrics. It was a Ouija board. And even though I swear to you, it's not something that scared me. It had never been something that particularly scared me. I don't know if it was because of the moment or because we were alone there in the attic in the middle of nowhere, but I felt really strange. I felt as if I had shown something that could really let me communicate with the dead. We locked the room. I must confess that the board was so strange. It looked so old, so unique. I was even intrigued. And Mayra told me the whole story. Both her mother and her aunt Kathy, the wife of Mariela's father, they were very interested in the occult, to the point of buying several important objects, all carefully kept in a room of the house. I knew that Kathy was from a wealthy family. Strange, but wealthy. Because when she got involved in my uncle Armando's life, the first thing we all thought was that she was just another woman looking for his money. But no, Kathy didn't need it. She had more money than my grandparents. They had so much money that she and her sister could afford to spend on things like that. The Ouija board of a sorcerer from a village in the mountains of Veracruz. And Mayra clarified that it wasn't Catemaco. That was a town to attract tourists. No. He said the real sorcerers, they were found in much more hidden villages, hard to reach. Places that were almost impossible to reach. He told us that the soul of a witch lived in that board, of a woman who had done a lot of good, but burned alive at the start of the last century by revolutionaries during mountain guerrilla warfare. She was summoned for the first time in 1936, at a time when Ouija boards were still unknown in Mexico, before they were marketed here. Because we have to remember that the Ouija board in its early days was considered a way to contact spirits, even those who were never alive. Later it was marketed as a board game, and then it split between those who still thought it was just a game and those who used it as the main element of rituals and even satanic ones. Mayra knew its whole history. She even mentioned that phrase about the devil's best trick had been convincing humanity that he didn't exist. She also said that the best thing that could happen to those entities that were looking for a way to contact our plane was for it to be done by people who weren't truly convinced of what they were doing. People who didn't know how to open or close a session. We started playing and I was slowly falling under Mayra's charm. She dominated the conversation. I believed her. I believed everything she said. We asked if the pandemic would end in November. The former ones gathered together. When we insisted, when we asked anyway if the end was near, and the board kept going to S, we asked something else. We asked why. I swear, on a life that matters to me. Why? The board spelled out the word variant. Something that at that moment we didn't understand, but for some reason it stuck in my memory very, very clearly. And that, of course, we were about to understand. A few weeks later. The questions continued. They became more important. We asked at the end, when we were tired, if we would have long and happy lives, if we would achieve our dreams. The board answered no. And before we could ask another question, it continued with the following sentence. With my help, yes. I think that up until that moment, I felt like we were talking to someone rather than to something, rather than to a board. And really, I swear, the planchette was moving all by itself, clearly, without any effort from any of the three of us who had a finger on it. And we weren't even pressing it. That's why I dared to ask. Who are you? Who are we talking to? The board answered that we already knew. I told it that I didn't know anything, that it should tell us. And then it answered. I told you. That is, we understood that Mayra was right, that what she had told us was true. I asked if she was the witch who lived in the board, and before I could finish the question, really, the planchette moved violently to yes. I got scared. I noticed Mayra looked even paler than usual. While the two of us took a step back, my cousin Mariela knelt in front of the board, put both her hands on the cursor, and asked, "Can you help me talk to my mom?" What? The board didn't say anything. Mariela was trying to move the planchette. I saw that she was trying to drag it towards the yes, like as if giving it a push would mark the answer she was looking for. I saw her looking sad. I hugged her. I came over too. We were there. We were about to finish the game when something made me flip the board. The cursor had gotten stuck in the middle, and I saw how it was moving by itself without anyone touching it, and I told them to look. The cursor community went to yes, without anyone even touching it. Mayra said that this was too much, that this shouldn't be happening, that she would call her mom in the morning to ask her. Even though we were doing everything according to the ritual, even though I knew how to open and close it, the fact that it moved on its own without any contact from us was too much. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Wasn't supposed to be happening. Mariela approached the board again and told Mayra no. She told her, very upset, that she was going to keep playing. She stared at her and said, "You owe me." "You know why, Mayra? You owe me this." I got up to leave, but Mayra said I couldn't go. That whatever was happening was because of the stress. If not, there wouldn't be any more answers. And even though every fiber of my body told me it was wrong, that I shouldn't be there, I couldn't do that to Mariela. If I put myself in a place, I couldn't. No, I couldn't stand not being helped. So for her, for my cousin, I stayed. When we went back to the game, suddenly something made me ask them to be quiet. Someone was coming up the stairs. He slowly came up until he reached the attic door. We stayed quiet. There was someone back there. We were sure. "Are you awake?" My dad's voice scared me. Why the hell had he come up? I told him yes without opening the door, that we were still busy. He asked what we were doing. He said we should already be asleep. I told him we were talking about personal things, girl stuff, and he said not to take much longer, please. The grandparents could get up and walk around the house at night, maybe for water or something. That if we wanted them to stay isolated, we couldn't be walking around there too. I said that we would be done soon, that we wouldn't take long to go to sleep. My dad didn't answer. He just went down the stairs. I know that when he doesn't answer, it's because he's angry, but at that moment, getting scolded in the morning was the last thing on my mind. They asked the Ouija board about my aunt, about Mariela's mother. It answered vaguely, in strange sentences, things we didn't understand, disconnected words. So I asked it, "Can you bring my aunt here?" The Ouija answered the following: "Let us in, let us in, let us in." It said it 3 times. Mayra asked how. The answer was a candle, forehead, mirror, all night. Then he wrote it 3 more times. Mayra told Mariela that it was already too much, that they couldn't do that, that she didn't know if what would come through the mirror would be her mother, and Mariela, although she was sad, accepted. And even I, the most skeptical one in the family, was scared by that. We started to end the session. I started the ritual she told us she knew well. When when the footsteps were heard again coming up the stairs. My dad was probably coming back when he saw they weren't coming down, when he saw we were still awake. I signaled them to be quiet, to see if my dad thought we were asleep and wouldn't say anything else to us. He came up to the door. We almost held our breath so he wouldn't say anything. He stopped right there behind the door. He tried to open it very slowly. "We're coming, Dad. We're gonna sleep now." He tried to open it again. I repeated that we were coming and he shouldn't enter. He was going to kill me if he saw us playing with the Ouija board, but he kept trying to open it. Mariela told him that we were coming down, but I stayed at the door. He wouldn't leave. I got up and opened the door to tell him that was enough. Coming in like that violated my privacy, but when I opened the door, there was no one there. No one, not even on the stairs. But someone was trying to open the door. I saw the handle moving. I felt the pressure when I touched it to open it. Someone was on the other side, but they disappeared. I almost fainted. I think that was because my legs buckled. Mayra ran down the stairs in silence, with Mariela following her. And I was looking toward that room in the attic, the one I had always liked. And now that darkness that had always calmed me terrified me. I felt like there was someone there hiding. I grabbed my phone and went downstairs without looking back, feeling like someone was watching me from the darkness. I hurried down the stairs. I made it to my parents' room. I got in and snuggled between them. What I wanted most was to feel protected, and I got in the middle like when I was little. My mom woke me up. She asked me about my cousin. I told her I hadn't seen her after she ran off last night. They should ask Mayra about her. She told me that Mayra was indeed there, but that Mariela hadn't woken up in her bed, that they couldn't find her anywhere. While she was telling me that, I remembered what I had been dreaming about. I wrote it down in the notes on my phone so I wouldn't forget it. I dreamed I was at my grandparents' house, in the attic. I looked out the window and saw dead people, like in the dream I had before we went. Dead people standing around the house, and that the same ugly woman was telling them how to get in. She pointed out an open window to them, and they all came closer and went in through that window, and I could hear them down there moving all the grandparents' things around. And there, awake, now I could hear my uncles moving around in the house, looking for Mariela everywhere. They knocked on my door. Mayra. She told me that something very bad had happened. I asked her why she said that, and she told me they were going to kill her. That the board was much more important than she thought. That she hadn't told us the whole truth. That the ritual Mariela and she had done in the forest before I found them had actually activated it. There's a lady living in the board, but she's not good, like I told you. And I swear to you, I saw her here in my dreams, before coming here, as if she were already waiting for us. I still didn't really understand why she was worried. Mariela had probably gone out for a walk like she had done before. I didn't think it had anything to do with what we had been playing. And the thing is, in the morning, with the sunlight coming through the window, I wasn't so afraid of the Ouija board anymore. Then Mayra asked me to please go with her. Reluctantly, I agreed and followed her in my pajamas. That's when she said the board was gone, that my cousin had taken it, and something worse had happened. We reached her room and she pointed toward the bathroom. I opened the door. In front of the mirror, there was a completely burned out candle, as if someone had left it there, burning all night long. Mariela doesn't know what will happen, but she already brought her. She helped her get out. She doesn't know who that woman is or what she wants from you. And Mom is gonna kill me, Mariela. I changed so I could go look for Mariela. I was already very worried about her, Mariela. I walked down the hallway to my grandparents' room. My mom was listening to something my grandma was telling her. A dream from afar. She told her that she had seen a horrible woman, and she described her just like the one I saw in my dreams. Grandma said that the woman had been sitting in her rocking chair all night, the one she has next to her bed. That she was dreaming about something, and then like she would open her eyes and see her. She would go into another dream. Then I went back to the room, and I could see her again, as if she were real. That she had been seeing her all night, and that she looked like a real flesh and blood person, and that she seemed real. And very real, very... I feared the worst. What if it was? What if whatever was in the Ouija board had come out? That they had helped it come out, and for some reason it focused on her. On my grandmother. And she had a reason to have that fear. This story will continue in the next episode. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed this first episode of this long story. Now I have two very important things to tell you. The first one, as I told you at the beginning, there are 5 books to give away in this episode. We are going to give away 5 in each episode of this saga until the end of it, where we will announce all the winners. The only thing you have to do to participate is to tell us your favorite saga down here in the comments. Out of all the Night Tales, which one do you like the most? Just that. Comment your favorite saga and you'll be participating. I think all the pending books have already been delivered, except for the ones to Argentina, which were returned to us again, but they will arrive. Those still waiting for their book over there, they'll arrive even if I take them myself. And I also want to ask you something. Community. If you've already watched The House of Fear Until Dawn, it's the new horror reality show from Sonoro where they bring together 8 creators in one of the most haunted houses in Mexico City to see who can last until dawn. It's hosted by Leyendas Legendarias, and what's interesting is that fear is measured in real time with heart rate monitors. Whoever gets scared the most is eliminated. Every hour they face paranormal things, challenges, and strange presences, and it gets intense. It's already on YouTube. Go watch it and please tell me if you liked it, what you thought, what was the best part, and even what you would change. For now, you already know. This saga continues in the next edition of Relatos de la Noche.